Welcome to the Bookish Spell, your cozy corner for all things bookish. I'm Angie, your host, and each week I'll be diving into the magical world of books, sharing reviews, author interviews, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday, so grab a cup of coffee and get ready to turn the page with me.
Okay, well, hello, Kate, and welcome on to the show. I am so glad to have you here and that you came to speak for us. So
I'm excited to be here.
start off by telling us a little bit about what you do.
So I do two things. I am a, professional author, of course. I
Nice.
have been publishing since 2019, and I've been publishing successfully since 2020.
Amazing.
And then also in 2022, I started a just side hustle as kind of a favor for a friend where I started helping authors learn how to use TikTok. It originally started where I would manage TikTok accounts for authors, and
Oh,
then it
wow.
kind of blew up from there. And so now I've got this, massive TikTok for authors course that has helped. I think we just hit 2,000 authors
Oh, my gosh.
with their TikTok strategy,
Mm.
so that we can find good books for more people to read, because that's the hardest thing for authors is finding an audience that, loves our books. It's just, getting our books into those hands. So,
Wow. Well, tell us a little bit about your course. What can authors expect?
it is a comprehensive front to back TikTok course. So if you
Mhm.
know how to use TikTok already, you can skip the introduction portion and learn all about the algorithm and the strategy. The big thing that I like to tell people who, have tried TikTok in the past is it's not a course that teaches you trends. It's a course that teaches you longevity and strategy overall, because I don't want people to, sit and learn how to do this week's meme. I want you to sit and learn how to do something that you can do over and over again. And every single thing I teach in that course is stuff that I have been using for 2, almost 3 years now to help myself and other authors make, am I allowed to cuss on this podcast? A metric fuck ton of money.
Nice.
Um, However, if you've never used TikTok and can't even figure out how to download the app, it'll teach you how to do that too. And it'll teach you how to post a video and all of that basic stuff
That is
if you struggle with that.
that is a really good thing to add because I myself, when I first started TikTok, this was even way before I was doing my book account. I was just on TikTok. I had no idea how to post. I couldn't figure out how to add the words on the videos.
Right.
Like, so I purchased a course from Udemy and had somebody teach me how to do the just work TikTok. So that is a amazing thing that you offer because I feel like a lot of people don't. And I've been like a tech person all my life. I'm just like computer nerd, and I don't know why for the life of me I couldn't figure out TikTok. It was like
Yes.
way ahead of my
So
time.
what I have found with a lot of courses that I have done, because I've taken a lot of courses on a lot of subjects, and a lot of it is people just like teaching you things that you can learn from, YouTube or whatever, but you
Yep.
have to sit and do a lot of it and a
Mm.
lot of research into it. But one important thing about like my course that I teach is I'm not just teaching things that you can look up on YouTube. I'm learning things that I've learned from working with
Wow,
thousands of
man.
authors,
Nice.
um, because it's really important to me that the stuff that I teach works.
Mhm.
And it's not just something that I have one big client that this worked for, therefore it works really well because it happened to work for this one person. It's something that works consistently over and over again across thousands of people and thousands of accounts.
I love it. And where can we find your course?
My course is located at my website, Align Digital, and I'll
Mm.
make sure that you have an affiliate code so that you can get credit if people find it through you.
Oh, nice. Nice. Well, that's pretty interesting. So, actually, one of my questions about your course is it a mix of, or is it one or the other of just like visuals, like watching a video, or is it like a manual script that they're gonna have to read? How is your course like conducted?
So it's all on video. We're working on getting it transcribed and getting transcripts, but I hadn't considered getting like PDF transcripts. So we're working on getting that. But honestly, since the course came out a year ago, I've been so busy that I just haven't
Yeah.
had an extra minute to get the transcribed version down for everyone to download PDFs.
Video is my preferred method, so.
Yes, it's all video, and we have captions on most of the videos because I struggle with audio processing, so I always need captions on videos that I watch. So we're working on getting the captions done as well.
Nice, nice. All right, and can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you started TikTok?
How I started TikTok was a total accident. I was having a down couple of months with my books because I didn't really know why my first series sold really well, which meant I couldn't replicate the things that made my first series do really well. Then I discovered Universal Fantasy by T. Taylor, changed my life, changed my entire life. So if you're an author or an aspiring author, read her book because it blew my mind. But anyway, so I was struggling and having some low months on sales, and I had a friend who messaged, and she knew that I was struggling financially at that point, and that my laptop that I used for writing and for my career had died. And so I didn't even have a computer I could use to work on my books. And so she messaged, she was like, hey, could you manage one of my TikTok accounts for like a month and I'll give you some money and then you can buy like an okay pre-owned computer. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I will. Because I want to get back to work. I want to get back to writing and stuff. So she gave me some money, bought a computer, and I was like, I'm going to learn every freaking thing about TikTok. I'm going to learn the ins and outs. I'm going to learn not just what's working right now, but I want to learn how to make it work consistently. And that was about the next 3 months, was just because some days you would get no views and I couldn't figure out why views were going down when this thing had worked so well, a month before. I was told people stop posting spicy content because TikTok is starting to ban spicy content, and if they figure out that your account is mainly spicy, then all of this work goes down the drain. So basically I had this one accidental client for a friend, and then she had a couple of people that knew a couple of people who knew a couple of people who all wanted somebody to manage their accounts. And then at some point I was like, okay, this is too many people. I need to teach people how to do it. And I need to teach them how to do it in a way that works consistently and that gives consistent results. Because I think that's what we really need in our author careers, is just consistent results. We need consistent sales because that's how we survive and that's how we write more awesome books. So
that was a great way to create a course, because now you're able to be like a million people at once. So
yes, I started over the summer in 2022. I started doing or 2023. I started doing just like a little bit of coaching on teaching authors how to use TikTok with very select clients, and that's how I figured out what the course needed to be about and what I needed to do for the course and how in depth it needed to go, because everybody has different questions, and I don't know what you don't know about TikTok. I don't know if you know how to add, a filter, or what the actual name that the TikTok app uses for filters, which is effects. They're not called filters on TikTok. So it's figuring out, and it's making sure that I have enough information, because I don't know what you don't know. And if I don't tell you, then, you might not know, and you might not have the information, and you might not know the questions to ask.
So what makes TikTok such a powerful platform for book promotion?
Honestly, it's the amount of user base. And it's also their algorithm. And their algorithm is really simple. It is the more seconds that somebody watches your video, the more time somebody watches, not the percent, but the amount of time, the more likely your video is to be recommended to them in the future, your other videos. but it's also going to affect how TikTok shows your content to other people. So if people scroll within the first 3 seconds of your video, then they are not going to be recommended any more of your content. If that person stays on your content for more than 3 seconds, they are going to be recommended another piece of your content
Wow.
in the future. If they stay on your content for more than 20 seconds, TikTok is going to recommend your content to people similar to them. They're going to show it on the For You page, which is just the master feed where it shows anything from anybody. So it's going to show it to more people. And if they watch it for over a minute, if people consistently watch your video for more than a minute, your post is going to go viral. And that's all there is to it. So if you have a piece of content that is intriguing and keeps people there for 60 seconds or longer, it's going to go viral. And that's also why I tell people to make longer content. If they do the slideshows where people can scroll through it, then I tell people it has to be more than a minute. You have to do 25 or more slides, because 25 slides, people take an average of 2.5 seconds per slide, because we don't do long walls of text here, because people are put off by it. They don't want to sit and read a long wall of text on TikTok. That's for the actual book. When they're reading the actual book, TikTok has to be fast. So they're still getting the sensation of scrolling when they go page by page on like your photo mode on your slideshows. But if we give them 2.5 seconds per slide, which is fairly standard, fairly average, and they go through 25 slides, 25 slides is 62.5 seconds, which means they've been on it for over a minute. And so then when we go into 26, 27, 35 slides, which 35 is the maximum on TikTok, that's where you're going to start to see a massive return. That's where you're going to see the most viral content, is going to be that longer content, but it has to be emotionally intriguing. It has to appeal to something people can relate to and a sense of justice. So as far as that goes, then I'm like, hey, make sure that your posts go toward emotional hooks, because you know, you can read spice in pretty much anything you find on TikTok, but we want to get people emotionally invested so that they fall in love with our characters, so they fall in love with our story, and not just the sexy thing that sexy man is doing to sexy woman. So I always pick scenes that appeal to loneliness, heartbreak, and insecurity, because that's what people fear the most. That's deep down, that's the big thing we fear the most, other than like, you know, putting your foot in the water at the lake and then something touches your foot. That and loneliness. So am I wrong? Like, you get in the water and then something touches your foot and you're like, I'm out. That's it.
I actually having that conversation with my husband the other day. Like, one of my biggest fears is the ocean. I don't know what's gonna touch my feet.
Yes. Or like the ocean, you're out on the beach and then something touches you. No.
Oh.
But other than that fear, we fear loneliness, and it's an instinctual thing. 10,000 years ago, when we were all living in caves, if you were alone, if you were rejected by, you know, your village, you were dead. You were killed. You were eaten by a tiger or something. So we naturally fear loneliness and rejection, because our bodies know that being able to not be rejected and being with people, that's where safety is. It's a basic evolutionary trait. If you are together, you are safe, because humans are herd animals. And so we have that need to be loved, to be cared for, to be cherished. And when we have the fear of that not happening, people feel something for your character.
Yes.
And it's 100% of the time. It works every time. Or like they say in Anchorman, 70% of the time, it works every time.
Okay. So, I guess the tip is if somebody has a spicy novel, they shouldn't like advertise it as much. You would think, or because I
You
feel like
can
my
absolutely tell people that it's spicy. And listen, I love a good spicy scene. Luna Pierce is my best friend in the whole world, and she finds good ways to talk on TikTok about the content of the
without
scenes without that. She's like I said, she's been my best friend in the author world for years at this point. We met in 2020,
mm-hmm.
well before Untamed Vixen and Villanera ever happened. And she's a goddess of TikTok. But if you don't know how to talk about spice without talking about spice, you've got to be really careful.
That's something
Because
I wasn't aware of. That's good to know.
yeah, so if you're saying, if you're an author on TikTok, you don't need to be posting your spicy scenes. And it's not just because TikTok has this ban either. It's if you're a KU author, which is Kindle Unlimited for anyone who's unaware, that is a subscription membership where you are paid based off of the number of pages somebody reads in your book. But in 2014, 2015, there started to be issues with book stuffing and with basically scam page reads where somebody would go and flip through books so that authors could get paid. And there were even services you could pay for to get to like the top of the charts by
What?
having people flip through your pages, and they would just scroll through them really, really fast, or they would skip forward to the end. So Amazon now looks for that, and they'll look for people skipping through the book and skipping past chapters. And so the reason this matters with spicy scenes is that TikTok user behavior with spicy scenes is if you post a spicy scene, then TikTok readers go buy the book and then they skip to that spicy scene to read it.
Oh my gosh.
And then they skip to the end so that you get the page reads, which means you're going to lose 50% of your total royalties for the month, no matter what, if this happens more than a few times.
I didn't know that's how Kindle Limited was. I was actually very curious about that, wondering how
Yes.
people make money.
So,
I did not
yeah,
know.
it's based off of the pages that people read. But if you have a dozen of your 30 readers in a day going forward and skipping to the spicy scenes because that's what they saw on TikTok and they just want to read the book for those scenes and they just want to go and read those scenes, then Amazon is going to say, oh, somebody is trying to scam us to get their page reads. So we're just going to take away 50% of their revenue for the month. And so that's another huge reason to not post spicy scenes, because if you're posting scenes that emotionally hook
Yeah.
people to your characters, then they want to read it for the story. They want to read how this character lives and evolves versus that one scene.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I did not know that about Kindle Limited. I'm actually really shocked.
Yeah.
I feel like we kind of answered this a little bit earlier, and you answered it. Remember my questions to you was how important are trends on TikTok, and how can authors
They're not.
leverage? Okay.
You can have a video go viral with trends, but chances are if you're seeing this trend a lot and you're posting it, it's too late. If
Yeah.
you're seeing it a lot, it's too late for you to get on the train and go viral most of the time, 99% of the time. Because by the time you get that video up, the trend is played out. Trends last for about a day and a half on TikTok. So if you're seeing a ton of it, it's probably over.
Wow.
So I always tell people, don't work for the trend, work for what consistently works.
Mm-hmm.
And my course doesn't just go over the slideshow posts, but that's what resonates with a lot of people because it's really hard to go and like post your face on TikTok every day to talk about your books. So that the slideshows are what really resonate with people, but there's so much you can do without having to do a trend. There's so much that you can do that consistently works and has consistently worked for years.
Mm.
Because having a consistent thing that works is going to be so much more important in the long run. Because if you try to post trends all the time, then you might occasionally have one that goes viral, or you might get super lucky and something goes viral about your book one time
Yeah.
in the course of a year or two.
Mm.
But you're not going to get consistent good views that way. And consistent good views are what keep your career going.
Mm-hmm.
Having a boost in sales and having a boost in people reading your book can be really great. But having a short boost from one piece of content that does really, really well isn't going to bring you consistent income. And it's not going to teach you how to bring yourself consistent income if TikTok gets banned or if TikTok just stops being the popular thing. Knowing how to do TikTok trends is not going to be the thing that, saves your career. So you have to have these skills to do things that work and that keep people engaged. And I think that's the most important thing, not just about my TikTok course, but I have like a course on how to write hooks, and it's
Oh, nice.
I came up with that course. It's called Book Marketing Pro, so it's separate from my TikTok one. But I have that one because this is how to write hooks that get people reading the hook and keep people engaged, so that they buy your book. And they work and those are not just for TikTok, they're for everything, because people need to realize that if you put your eggs all in one basket, you're going to get screwed at some point. Whether that's the end of January, when TikTok is set to potentially be banned in the US, and removed from the App Store, or it's something else. Now, TikTok, there's every chance it might not get banned.
Yeah.
Or if it does get banned, it's not going to be gone. You're still going to have it on your phone if you have it
Yeah.
downloaded, and it's still available outside the US. So if you get a VPN on, say, an old phone,
Yeah.
you can trick your phone into thinking that it's in a country where TikTok isn't banned, and you can use it there. But I'm a huge believer of not having your eggs all in one basket in any case.
I'm glad that you're saying that, because I have been social media obsessed from the beginning of social media. Like, that is one of my goals, to just be successful within social media. It's like, I don't know, it gives me chills how much I love it. So I watch all different stuff on YouTube. I buy courses online sometimes. But my difficult problem is I don't know what course to pick. So I'm actually really interested in your hook course. I want to take that. But I watch a lot of just random videos on YouTube, like social media influencers or people that like say that they do this, for a living or whatnot. But all of them have one thing in common, and they all say just focus on one social media platform. And that's something that I never did, because I feel like I don't want to, for one, because I like all these platforms.
It's not. There's some validity in focusing on one platform when you're learning how to use a platform. I will give you that. And when you're starting to learn social media, instead of trying to, because what most people do when they're like, I'm going to try to be successful on social media, is they're going to be like, I'm going to post Facebook posts with custom images in a group every single day. And then I'm also going to tweet and have a following on Twitter. And then I'm going to do Threads, and I'm going to do Blue Sky, and I'm going to do Pinterest, and I'm going to do Instagram photos with all of the aesthetic. But when I say you should make content for all social medias, use a content scheduler. There's no reason to be trying to make various content for every single thing everywhere. That's bonkers. So use a content scheduling app like Loomly or something. That, honestly, for you, if I would go into any course, it would either be my new venture that I'm starting next year, which we'll talk about after the thing, because it's not book related at all, but you and I are going to talk about it after we stop recording. But that, or like my Streamline and Sell, which is about post scheduling and creating content that sells on all platforms so that you can create one piece of content and it hits 8 platforms and you've got, markets cornered in dozens or in, 6, 7, 8 platforms at a time. Because when people say focus on one platform, they're saying don't sit and try to learn to use every single platform all at once because it's going to drive you bonkers. But I don't think that just putting every bit of effort and working for 8 hours a day on TikTok, I don't think it's a good idea, because then if TikTok gets banned or if people just stop using it or something, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So you've got to diversify your income. I definitely learned about diversifying income the hard way, because that first series did so very well, and then Facebook stopped being the popular place to market things, and I had no idea what to do. Way back in the olden days of 2020.
I do want to talk about your books too, but I do have one question.
Absolutely.
This is a lingering question I have all the time, and I feel like I never could get a clear answer. So I want to talk about hashtags and captions. How do you factor those into the success of TikTok videos? Is it better to have more hashtags, less hashtags, no hashtags?
So what I do for my captions and hashtags, do you know what SEO is? You know what? It doesn't matter if you know. I'm going to explain SEO because some people don't know what it is. And you hear SEO and you're like, that's a really technical computer term. I don't want to know what that is, and I'm not going to look at it. SEO, it stands for search engine optimization, and it sounds super complex and technical when you're like, I use search engine optimization for my content. It's keywords. It's a really fancy way of saying keywords, good keywords that make it easier for people to find your content. So if somebody says, learn SEO here, do SEO here, it's literally using keywords good. And I was so mad when I found out that was what it meant, because I spent so long avoiding learning about SEO. So here's my exact format for my captions and hashtags. And this consistently works on all social medias. I use a sentence that has my keywords, and then I put, for TikTok, they let you use longer captions. Some social medias don't let you use longer captions, but if it lets you, then I do my book's blurb while censoring any questionable words. Even words like touch and body and arm or whatever, anything that's a body part where TikTok is like, I think they're doing sex with those parts. Any of those keywords I censor. And I remove any curse words from the blurb and stuff. So I put the blurb just for the sake of having a longer caption, because TikTok is like, you put more effort in, and I'm like, I copy and pasted this. But the biggest thing for your caption is these keywords that are going to help you get in the right categories on TikTok, because we don't want to sit and work our ass off on a book talk video and then find out that it's going to trucker TikTok. We don't want to, work our butt off on a dark billionaire mafia romance and find out that the only people seeing it are 13-year-olds who are into parkour. So that would be horrible. So we want to make sure that our keywords are keyed in. And so I always put, for example, for like my billionaire romance book, this is right here. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, but I will say an impressive proposal is an angsty billionaire marriage of convenience romance. I don't say romance like the actual word. I purposely misspell it in my captions because it's less likely to get flagged by TikTok, because TikTok is a lot more strict when you mention romance in your caption. So I misspell it and I do RO Amazon mother, A M as in mother, CE. because it's such a common misspelling that you're going to end up in the right place anyway, but TikTok doesn't flag it yet. They might start flagging it, but they haven't to this
Wow.
point. So I use that. And then I use the book talk hashtag just to make sure that TikTok is like, ah, yes, book talk content. And then I will use like keyword, I'll use hashtags that are like marriage of convenience, romance. And there's in the hashtags, I'll use the word romance. Not every time, but sometimes. So I'll use like marriage of convenience romance, billionaire romance, angsty romance books, books that made me cry. I will use 5 hashtags. I never even use 6 hashtags. I will use between 3 and 5 hashtags. And these hashtags are going to be my tropes, and they're going to be my keywords that get this in the right categories, that get the right people watching. So the big thing is if you use too many, then TikTok, it's bot behavior to use a lot. So the big thing that TikTok wants is they want to keep bots off of the app because they make more money when real people are seeing content. They get more money from ad spend, they get more money from TikTok Shop and all of that. So bots use short captions and a million hashtags. Bots do shorter content. Bots do mass posting content on like 10 times a day. So I only post like 2 or 3 times a day. Usually twice a day is my sweet spot on an account. That's where I'm going to see, $3,000 a month per book that I post. Nice. In revenue. So twice a day has been a really good sweet spot. I used to do 3, but the third is always like video 1 gets decent views, video 2 gets decent views, and then video 3 is like 300 views. And I'm like,
that's so helpful.
Where did that come from?
That's a really helpful piece of advice right there, because I feel like most people got the idea that you have to post 3 to 5 times a day on TikTok.
You don't. Absolutely not. That's hell. That's where hell is. But also, speaking of view numbers, I just want to throw this out there, just as like a helpful thing for people to pay attention to. If you have less than 200 views per video, TikTok either thinks that you're posting inappropriate content or they think that you are a bot. So make sure that you're interacting with other people's posts. Celebration thing popped up. That was weird.
That's funny.
Make sure that you are interacting with other people's content, and make sure that you are not posting. If you're using like photo slideshows, do not have people in your images, because TikTok is really, really, really careful about anything with people, because what some bots will do, and I don't know why they do this, because they don't make any money from it. They will post photo stills from pornographic videos on the photos. And so TikTok is very careful about people in the still images, because what if it's secretly porn? And what if TikTok's AI bots didn't catch it, and now that is going out to, 15-year-olds and stuff. Exactly. So I don't use people in my backgrounds either, because that can flag it. But if you're seeing views that are like, less than 200 views, then there's something wrong with your content that TikTok is flagging. Because rather than constantly doing community guidelines violations and having people appeal it, it's easier to just not give you views. It's easier to be like, 60 people watched this video. We obviously we're not flagging your video for a content violation. We're not banning you for a content violation and wasting resources on customer service and on manual checks. We're just not going to give you views. Because it saves them a lot of money to not have to pay someone to double check it. When you appeal a content guideline violation.
That's good advice. I noticed that with my videos too, because I use this content scheduler, especially for all my podcast clips. And sometimes I'm posting 3, sometimes 5 clips a day of my podcast clips, along with stuff that I'm recording in the moment, or whatever. So sometimes it's like
Mhm.
more than I. And I notice like some videos are doing pretty well, and then some of them get like under 100, like 50 views. I'm like, what's going on here? So that makes sense. I am going to stop
Mhm.
posting that many, because then a lot of the people I'm recording with, their videos are not being seen enough. So that is really
Right.
cool. That is really okay. How do authors balance promoting their books with creating content that feels authentic and engaging?
Um, so that's a complicated question because none of the content I create that makes me, like I said, about $3,000 a month per account. So like I'll post my billionaire romance on one account, and then I'll post like my really popular paranormal romance RH series on a different account.
Oh,
And so
nice.
then it'll be like around 3 to 5K per book a month. It's not authentic, mind-blowing, original content that engages with readers. It's slideshows that are scenes from the book that get people to relate. Because I I used to say I'm lazy, but I don't think that's accurate because I'm constantly working, right? I love my business. I love doing things to work on my business, and I love bettering myself and my work that I do, and I love putting my best foot forward in the world.
Mm,
Um, I'm not lazy. I'm busy as shit.
yeah.
Okay. I don't have 6 hours a day to post content. And you know what? The biggest complaint I get from authors is they're like, oh my God, this is such a time suck. I can't sit and work on TikTok for
Mm,
6 to 8 hours a day trying to figure it out and trying to
mm,
get all of this stuff done and trying to make original content and trying to film all of this original content.
mm,
Um, so because I want to write my books, and that's where most of us are. Like, I don't want to sit and market. And that's where I think a lot of people don't realize when they go the self-publishing route. And I love self-publishing. Self-publishing 100% is my favorite.
yeah.
Every self-published author that I know that treats it like a business and constantly like works to better themselves and actually like learns how to write marketable books and learns to market their books. Everyone that like actually does like puts that work in, and learns to do it properly and listens to people who've done it before. The listening is an important part, because sometimes we get into this mode of like, no, this I know that this professional who's been doing this for 5 years and makes $100,000 a month. I know they're saying to do this, but I'm gonna do this slightly different way. That's like a little bit better in my opinion, even though I've never made a dollar. And then we get into that trap of like, well, no, I think I know a better way to do it, as though that person,
Well, I mean,
um,
that's a good way of thinking, because a lot of, if it's
yeah.
a more of a well-known person, they're getting more views and making more money because people know who they are, and it kind
Well,
of.
and not necessarily, because there's you would be shocked at the number of authors that you've never heard of that are making $1 million a month.
Wow.
Um, so I just want to put that out there. Just because you have heard of an author doesn't mean that they're making $1 million a year.
Mm,
And just because you've never heard of someone doesn't mean they're not making $1 million a year.
that's it.
Um, so that's an important clarification there. But basically, um, every indie author I know that puts the effort in to do it right and do it in a way that is actually proven to sell books is going to make more money than most trad published authors. And then indie authors that go trad generally just do it for distribution on paperbacks and are still like KU authors that do Kindle Unlimited
Yeah, like
and self-publish and are on their own schedule.
Emily
Um,
McIntyre is one of them.
yeah. Well, I had somebody that was like, well, why do so many authors jump ship from indie and go trad as soon as they get the chance? And I'm like, they don't. They're still independent authors. They are hybrid authors who use traditional for paperback distribution, but
Hmm.
they are still indie authors. They don't work for a publishing company, to do what the publishing company wants, because the big thing is if you get a trad publishing deal, unless you're getting a trad deal that's like, a six-figure, God, I haven't done trad in so long, I forgot the name, a six-figure advance, unless you've got like that kind of thing, chances are you still have to do the bulk of the marketing because your publisher is not going to do it.
Wow.
Um,
Oh, sorry. It's my little boy.
It's okay. I have a 3-year-old, I get it. But yeah, so that's why I love indie. And I had a point there that was about social media. Oh yeah, it's basically like if you're indie, you're running your own business, but you still want to be able to write and you still want to be able to do the things you want to do for your business. That's why you did it. That's why you're publishing books, because you want to do the things you want to do in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
You either want to publish your book your own way, or you want to have financial independence, whatever it costs, or whatever. This is something that you want to do because you want to be in control of your own destiny. And I am very much of the mind that you should be able to do the things you want to do, and there's no reason that it should be super hard to do these other things. There's no reason you should be spending 6 hours a day on marketing when you can figure out when there is a way to do it easier. When there's post schedulers, when there's, TikTok slideshow posts, when there's all of this other stuff. There's ways to do it that aren't going to suck up your time. A lot of us are disabled. A lot of us have families. A lot of us have other shit going on, There's not a lot of authors have full-time jobs.
Yes.
There's so much that goes into it. There's no reason that you should have to, I should say. Because there's plenty of reason you can be doing this for, several hours a day, for, 10, 16 hours a day. And I've had lots of 16-hour days. But there's also no reason that you can't find a way to make it easier on yourself and to do a little less so that you can do a little more of what you like.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers whatever your question was. I have ADHD, so we went on a journey together.
Well, it was a good answer to my question. So I feel what I gathered from that is don't make excuses. You can definitely post on social media and focus on your writing at the same time. You prioritize.
Yeah, and if you come up to me and you say, well, no, TikTok is so random and only works for a few people, I'm gonna fight you. If you come up to me at a convention and you say, well, I won't do TikTok because like it's all fake. There's no way to predict it. There's no way to like actually like guarantee that you're gonna sell. And I'm like, yeah, there is. It's called strategy. You just have to actually learn how to do it instead of just randomly posting whatever you feel like.
I do have 2 more questions before we get into your book. One of them
absolutely.
was, does posting like consistently every day on a certain time matter, or can you post on whatever time you want as long as you're posting consistently?
The time doesn't super matter. Sometimes you'll see a pattern where posting a certain time of day does better, but really since TikTok started doing where they would show your piece of content to around 200 or 300 people initially before determining if it goes viral, which is something they instituted about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So it's been a while. It's been an eternity in social media terms. But so ever since they started doing that, it's a lot more like YouTube, where they base your post performance off of that initial little bit, and they're going to give you that initial little bit as long as your content is good, as long as your video isn't really grainy and dark and awkward, as long as you aren't pausing and then introducing yourself and then finally getting to the goddamn point. Because that's a big thing a lot of people do, is they'll start their video and be like, hi guys, it's me again, it's Kate, I am so excited. And I'm like, who are you? What is the point of this? What is the point of your video? So getting to the point initially, whether you do slideshows or whether you're talking to the camera, you can, as long as you're learning to make good stuff, you're gonna do it. What was your question again? I'm so sorry.
Like my question was, does the time, like, would it be better to
Oh yeah, the
consistently
posting time. Yeah, so basically, yeah, I remember where I got on that tangent from too. So the posting time doesn't super matter because they're gonna show it to like 200 or 300 people initially, and then they're gonna figure out what audience is engaging most with that content, and they're gonna show it to that audience when they're the most engaged. Because TikTok's goal is always, always, always to make more money. So keeping people engaged and keeping people on the app is part of their strategy for them to make more money, because when they have people on the app, they get more ad revenue from sponsors, and they also get people that are more likely to spend money on TikTok Shop and stuff like that. So, or, if somebody's engaged on the app, then that person's more likely to be on there long enough to buy something off TikTok Shop. So the time of posting doesn't super duper matter anymore, because there's always at least 300 people in your niche online whenever you post, wherever you're at. And then they're just going to decide, and they're just going to decide when that audience is the most engaged, which they can tell by these massive algorithms that check all of that. And so then they're going to show to people when they're the most engaged. Which is why I also tell people, if your video is under 1,000 views the day you post it, don't delete it just because of that, because it can still very easily go viral a week from now or a month from now. I've had it happen.
Wow, that is helpful.
Yeah.
So speaking of like the rambling and making your videos, difficulty getting to the point, I feel like majority of authors struggle with that. As an aspiring author myself, I struggle with that because watch, we're writers. We are meant to create a very long sentence because it fills up the page in the book. So do you teach authors to kind of be able to create that short video and be able to pack whatever they need to say in that short of a time? Because I feel like that is what's going to be golden here for a lot of
Yes. So there's two things that are extremely important. The first is editing out pauses, because anytime we pause, it gives people a second to think and to decide if they're liking this content. Keep going, keep talking, and edit out any pauses. Pauses is what I just said. Edit out pauses. TikTok's app, you can do that in app. You can just use their slice tool and cut out any pauses in the video. Especially that pause at the beginning of the video between hitting record and talking. That has to be gone. That is the most important piece of editing you are ever going to learn, is to cut out that half-second pause before you start talking, because that half second of nothing, people will keep scrolling before you ever even attempt to get your point. Every single thing we do on TikTok is just begging readers for a moment of their attention. And if you don't have a reason for them to stay within that first 3 seconds, they have no reason and they're going to keep going. So that half second must be edited out. And then the first thing out of your mouth has to be something that matters, something that gets them to pause and listen. Something like, Luna Pierce, I talk about her a lot because she's my best friend in the world and she's a goddess of TikTok. So hers is always something along the lines of, if you don't like really dark, messed up romance books, keep scrolling. Or if you don't like, or if you're not on dark romance book talk, keep scrolling. Because that tells people I'm going to hear something really good, because I am on dark romance TikTok. So I'm going to hear something real good, or, ooh, I'm intrigued. I've considered dark books, but I've never read them. And so it's going to get people intrigued enough that they're going to be like, ooh, I have to find out what she's going to say. And then she always says something really fucked up. It's wonderful. I love her so much. So getting to the point immediately is the most important thing. It's okay if you go off on a tangent a little bit in the video, but as long as you are connecting it to that main point, as long as you know where this train is going. It's
Yeah.
okay if parts of it pop off the rail a little bit. This is not a real train. Nobody's gonna die.
Mm.
So just have that first initial thing and have a point that you're getting to.
Mm.
Another one that I like to do, that works really well for one of my clients who sells, she's had a couple of $1,000 TikTok shop days. Just for clarification, like she's sold $1,000 in a day on TikTok shop.
Wow.
So one of her great openings that I absolutely adore is, my editor said, don't do it. So I have this dark romance book, and she said, Jen, don't write this scene where he unalives someone in her kitchen and there's a mess everywhere, and then they do things on the floor right next to the body. She said, don't do it, but then I did. Dark romance. I'm so sorry for your listeners who aren't into dark romance. Dark romance gets real fucky real quick.
Oh no, most of them are dark romance. Most of my listeners are dark romance. Well, that
Okay,
was
perfect. But yeah,
I feel like I've seen that TikTok.
probably. Yeah, and so it's like, get a really good point out there immediately, because you want people to stay on the video. Because if somebody watches the first 3 seconds and stays for the first 3 seconds, they are significantly more likely to stay the full 60 seconds than you might think. That first 3 seconds is the biggest drop-off point. And then you're going to lose, after the first 3 seconds, you're going to lose about 5 to 10% of your audience between that 3 second mark and the 60 second mark, or the 2 minute mark or whatever. But that drop off point is just that first 3 seconds, is where that massive drop off is going to be. So if that
Wow.
first 3 seconds is intriguing enough, then that 10% you're losing isn't going to be the last 10% of your audience that's left. It's going to
Wow.
be from, 70 to 60% of your audience, or 85 to 75% of your initial audience, which is much better than having that first 3 seconds drop off to like 5%. And then somehow you're at negative 5% of people are watching. Don't know how that works, but who knows?
That's funny. Well, it sounds like your course has a lot of information, a lot of stuff people can learn from. I'm definitely intrigued. How long is your course?
My course has over 7 or 8-ish hours of content, but you don't have to watch every single piece of it to be successful.
Nice.
There's sections on doing like face content, and sections of doing like content without your face. So there's a lot that is like it's kind of a pick and choose. But the most important things are going to be writing your hooks and just learning how to make content that's not going to get banned.
Right.
But your hooks are going to be the absolute most important thing. And if you literally just want to learn how to do hooks, just take the book marketing one. But if you want to learn how to do TikTok and how to do it well, TikTok for Authors is going to teach you everything that you need to know. If you take the whole thing, you're going to learn everything about TikTok, except for, because these didn't exist when I created the course and I haven't had a minute to add them, lives and TikTok shop. But I'm adding those.
Oh, that's nice.
As soon as I can. As soon as I have a second to myself.
Nice. Well, that was pretty fun. I feel like, just based off what you're talking about, I feel like your course can even help people who have book accounts, like myself and as many other people, in creating content to recommend books to people and creating those hooks. And I feel like that would be really helpful too. So any of my listeners who are just bookish creators, I feel can benefit from your course as well.
Yes, and I'm starting a new program that's for people who want to be influencers in general, not just about book talk. But if people have questions about that one after, you can contact me through my website too, because that's going to be totally separate and it's not going to be on my main website.
Okay.
So
Perfect. So let's talk about your books, because the main thing that started it all is you're an author yourself.
I've actually never heard of authors or books before in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
So tell us about your books? What genre do you write?
So I started by writing paranormal reverse harem romance.
Mm.
So I have a stack here. So this is the omnibus of my first ever series, Drakus Clan. This is 5 books. So I don't want to have to yank out the individual copies. So this is a dragon shifter romance about a lost dragon princess. This series did really well because it follows all of the ideas of universal fantasy, which I didn't know was even a thing. And universal fantasy is not the genre fantasy. It's about these things we fantasize about. You know, like when you think about winning the lottery and all of the ways that your life will change. It's all of that stuff happening to your character, or even just like, you know, things suck and people are going to treat me better in this magical, alternate universe. Or I'm going to meet this guy who's more important or better or sexier or badder or whatever, and he's into me. So that's the concept of universal fantasy, and I did not realize I wrote that very heavily into this book.
Oh, nice.
And then I shifted into paranormal MF books, starting with this series, which is my Fae romance, about a fairy king who kidnaps his escaped bride. He thought that she was hiding from him, but turns out that her family sent her to live as a human when she was just a baby because it was an arranged marriage. So they sent her to live as a human, and she had no idea that they existed or anything.
Wow,
And then he kidnaps her at work. And all of her coworkers are like, yeah, this is fine.
And that one's what it's called, the Night Court.
That's the Night Court series. That's actually my most popular TikTok shop series, which is funny because it does not sell on Amazon like at all.
Really?
Yeah, I barely sell any copies on Amazon. But now so all of those were under my pen name, Alexis Pierce. But this year I finally published my first book as Kate Hall. So this is a billionaire marriage of convenience romance. So like Nadia Lee, Katharina Mora type style of book. So this is my first one. This is also the first book I've published since learning the concept of universal fantasy, because I learned about it in 2023 and then kind of got into actually writing it. My brain just stalled out. Got into actually writing it last year and then finished this book and published it in July of this year. And so then I'm still working on book 2 in that series, and then I'm publishing a cowboy romance series under Kate Hall that is about men who do the professional sport of reining, which is a very popular equine Western sport. And so all of the guys are sexy, rich cowboys.
Oh, nice.
So I'm working on that one right now. That is one I'm so excited and passionate about because I always rode horses as a kid. I told you we were going to talk about horses today. You thought I was kidding. So I always rode horses as a kid. And then when I was a teenager, my mom got a reining horse, and they have to be very heavily trained to do this sport. It is ridiculously complicated, requires a massive amount of training. So I got really excited about that sport as a teenager, but never competed. And now as an adult, I'm getting back into it, and I have adult money now, so I can do things like buy expensive horses that are more money than I should be spending on a horse, but I don't care because I love her. Her name is Fancy. So I actually do this sport, and I was like, why have I not written a book like set in this world of like the richest, hottest guys in the sport? You know, we've got football romances, we've got hockey romances. Let's do some hot, rich cowboys who make a lot of money riding horses.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about that series. And I went to a show over the weekend that was, it's the biggest show of the year. Well, and it's the biggest show of the year in this sport And they've been doing this show for like 40 years. I
Oh my
think
goodness.
1983 is when they started. This year was their last year in the Coliseum Arena in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Mm.
It was the last year in that arena after years and years of having it there. And for the first time ever, a woman won the Futurity this past weekend.
Oh,
And I was so excited that I got to be there, and I got so amped up about the book again and about just writing in general and about horseback riding as well. So I'm excited for this series too. And if the Cowboy series does well, then I will probably stick pretty heavily with Cowboy Romance for my Kate Hall, my real name, pen name.
yeah. Mhm.
Because I just honestly, when it comes to writing about them, I don't even care about the men anymore. I'm just like, okay, so this is this horse. They're great. Because I'm such a freaking horse girl. Like when
Oh,
I
I
was a
love
kid on the playground, my friends and I would like, okay, so I'm this horse and my mane is shiny and black and I have a bay coat, but I have stripes like a zebra or something,
it.
an elementary kid. So I'm always, always, always a horse girl at heart. So, but yeah, so rich cowboys, billionaires, all of that fun stuff because
Mhm.
it's fun. It's really fun. And honestly, it sells really well. So it's really fun to write and it sells really well. Um, I also have a really, really spicy Monster Fucker series
Mm.
under my Alexis Pierce name that's like it's probably the most fun I've ever had writing a book because I'm like, let's make these sex scenes weird. Um, and it's a monster rock star series. So
Oh.
the first three books, these guys are all in a band and they all got turned into some kind of monster before the series started. So one guy is a demon possessing the body of a guy who died in the accident. Um, Another guy is a werewolf, and another one is something else that I can't say because it's a spoiler alert for book 2, and then his book is book 3.
That's interesting.
So,
You
but he's
write
something very dark and scary. And
I feel like you wrote a pretty good amount of books in such a short time. Have you considered like
25.
wow, 25 books you wrote?
25 books. Yep, I have 14 reverse harem books and then 10 books that are not reverse harem.
I don't know. Have you thought about making a writer's course?
I actually have on pre-order. What date is this podcast coming out?
Not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday.
Okay, so as of you all listening to this, I have a new
Actually,
course called
come out on Christmas Day.
okay, that's I actually celebrate Yule instead of Christmas.
Oh,
So I work on Christmas, but that's because I want to and we
mm.
celebrate and open presents on the 21st. So ha.
Oh, nice.
But as of this podcast being out, my new course will be out. It's actually my cheapest base level course because I want people to be able to access publishing very easily. So it's called Self-Publishing Success, and it gives you the information that you need to publish your first book.
Okay, so
And it's to be able to publish it on Amazon. So my goal with that course is for you to be able to write a book, to self-edit the book,
yeah,
which I can't teach you. I can't spend 18 hours teaching you all grammar, but I can give you some good resources
yep.
on being able to edit if you can't afford an editor and I made the course $25 because honestly, when I got started, I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. I lived in a 1988 van that was falling apart. And I lived between that van and somebody's floor. I was gonna say their couch, but it was an air mattress on the floor. Um,
Mm,
so I want to make it as accessible as possible. But I also know um, that with all of the work I put in, I'm like, I need to make like a
yeah,
little money out of it. Enough
yes.
enough money to pay for the website hosting. But it's also going to teach you things about cover design, whether you're looking to buy a pre-made cover, have a custom cover made, or make a cover yourself. I want you to understand like design basics so that you don't get totally screwed and get a terrible cover, because some of us, when we're just starting out, we don't know anything about it. We're like, this looks perfect. This is the most amazing cover in the world. And then turns out like 5 years later, you look back and you're like, this is the worst cover in the world.
Is that why a lot of authors do like a re-release with a new cover over time?
Yeah. Or sometimes it's just because the cover was pretty standard in the industry and sold really well 5, 6, 7 years ago, but now it's no longer the industry standard. Like object covers are making a big comeback right now. So, like my first series, actually, you know what? I'm gonna give my second, my non-RH Alexis Pierce book as an example. So this is a great cover for nowadays, but the original cover had a picture of a man with his titties out because that was pretty standard. I need you to know that anytime I talk about like man chest covers or shirtless men, I'm like, it's a man with his titties out. I have to say that. It's my worst brainworm. Is the man titty brainworm. But that was my original cover, but that doesn't sell super well with paperbacks. So for my paper book full series edition, I was like, let's do some roses, some gold, some prettiness, because it's going to do better, and it does. So teaching people how to do covers, or at least how to discern a good cover from a bad one, and then teaching you, I can't go over every single detail on how to write a good book, but I can give you kind of some good guidelines. And then it's also going to go over how to actually like upload it on Amazon and all of that.
Oh, baby.
Sorry. You're good. Like I said, mine is 3. I get it. If this room wasn't closed and my husband wasn't distracting the hell out of him, he would be here.
My daughter's the same way. Like my husband was trying to watch her all this time, but she starts screaming.
Yeah, my husband my kid does not want to be like cuddly or in my lap unless I'm busy. Then he's like, Mama, hold me.
I know.
Yeah, if I'm not busy, then he's like, no hugs, no kisses, nothing. And then if I'm busy, he's like, excuse me, where are my hugs and kisses?
Penelope, your arm is fine. Here you go.
But yes, so that course is called Self-Publishing Success. It's my absolute base level course because if you want to get into self-publishing, I highly recommend it. It literally changed my life. Like I said, I was couch hopping and living in a van. I was floor hopping and living in a van.
I'm glad that you're in a better place and you're becoming more successful, and you just really see a clear outlook of where you're headed with like what you want to do in life. So it's amazing to hear, and I feel it can be really inspiring for a lot of writers.
Yeah, and that's my goal. I want people to feel like they can make good informed decisions about their careers. Because the hardest thing is finding good information, and I always want to be a source of it. Which is why, especially when I do like podcasts and everything, I'm like, well, no, I like legitimately want you to learn things right now. I'm not just gonna like say, oh, well, you can learn that in my course. If you ask me a question, I'm gonna tell you the answer.
You told us some pretty good, helpful tips, which I feel everyone will appreciate to listen to. Definitely really, really intrigued by your courses.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, and I'll make sure that everyone has, that affiliate link in the show notes. And if your viewers use the code INDIE20, it's just INDIE 20 at checkout, then they'll get 20% off as well.
Yeah, well, I'll market that, put that on my social media for listeners to be able to see that offer, and because I do feel like a lot of people will be interested. Just based off of a lot of the authors that I talk to, they're very much looking for resources, help, tips, because they're at the end of the day, they're writing these books, but they are really struggling with their social media, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see what you're
Marketing is the hardest part of the business, honestly. Marketing and then customer service. Customer
saying.
service is, but at least customer service with as an author, you don't have to like answer calls.
Yeah,
But marketing is the hardest part of being an author by far.
I could see that.
Like
Marketing is,
honestly, in comparison, writing books is hard, but in comparison, writing books is easy. Like a vacation from marketing.
well, I mean, yeah, because about being an author, writing books is something that you're passionate about doing. You like writing a story. Marketing is
Right.
like, I have to do this if I want my story to sell. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Well, and if you think about it, most like I am a math girl and I like numbers, but
I,
most authors are not math girlies, and are not like super jazzed about data analytics.
yes.
But it's unfortunately a thing that you kind of just have to live with if you decide that you want to do it
Mm,
and run your business and all of that.
mm,
But putting the work in and learning to do it right is gonna make you do well and you're gonna make money. So
that's helpful.
yeah.
Mm. Well, Kate, I really enjoyed my time talking with you. I do hope to have you back on the show again and offer some more tips. Um, so yeah, so I do thank you for coming on. It was a blast hearing all your tips and amazing that you wrote 25 books. Um, so it's definitely a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun and I could talk about marketing books forever. So
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Bookish Spell. I hope you enjoy our magical bookish journey together. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to leave a review. It really helps. I'll be back next Wednesday with more enchanting stories and author insights. Until next time, keep the magic alive in your hearts and on your bookshelves.